Hey, empathic healers. Journal prompt question for the day. Does judgment and criticism create feelings of anger and resentment? We ready to dig? Let's find out. Excuse me. Grab your journals, journal with me. Today we're talking about forgiveness and transformation and heart chakra energy. So, welcome to the Energy Healing Lifestyle Journal Self Care Challenge Day 32. Again, my name is Robin Knott, and I'm your host of Energy Healing TV and podcast on YouTube, Rumble, and Spotify, and the founder of the EnergyHealingSchool.com. If you'd like to know a little bit more about me, I invite you to check out my About page or blurb. So, what we do in our journals, right? We get our mind ready, get our focus ready, we write down the journal prompt. So, I wrote down, and I'll ask again, does judgment and criticism create feelings of anger and resentment? So the purpose of this is to be aware, assess, and align, right? Be aware of whatever's going on the inside. Assess our energy. Is it in alignment with the source of unconditional love? And if it's not, what is an action step we can take to get into alignment with the source of unconditional love? Judgment and criticism are not in alignment with the source of unconditional love, right? Either is anger and resentment. Now, they're normal human emotions. It can be normal human patterns that we create for survival reasons or what we've been conditioned to believe, right? Conditioned to handle, if you will. But it doesn't necessarily, that's still our human stuff, right? No blame, shame, or guilt. We're not beating up the human. We're not stabbing and killing the ego. But we're being aware of it. Is something there? So while I was journaling, because of course I said, like, absolutely, when you think of the energy of judgment or criticism, then yes, it can create those feelings or add to, build anger and resentment. I was thinking, like, how could it not, right? However, then the next question is that energy portrayed outwards or inwards? And usually, in reflection for myself, it's often comes into my awareness outwards, right? So when things around me are going on that I'm aware of, that is criticism, judgments, like some, comments on the post, treating others poorly, could create those feelings of anger and resentment. Then there was the other question of, kind of like, is it the other way around? Does anger and resentment then bring about judgment and criticism? I believe so too, right? We project out different things, and people project out onto us as well, right? So, as you know, if you've been following along with me, I like to go within a lot. So it's self-care, and in self-care, it's getting to know ourself and the both aspects of self. Our human ego-ness self, when you look at the energy of the chakras, that's from the heart space down, right? So you have your heart chakra is both. That's our meeting place, if you will. But the heart chakra, solar plexus chakra, sacral chakra, and root chakra. That's where a lot of this stuff comes from, because it's where we start in our lives. It's our human experience. It's how we understand it, right? We've been talking about, like, as kiddos, when we first have these life experiences, we don't really know how to process it. We don't understand what's going on. We're not necessarily able to go, oh, well, that person's just having a bad day and this has nothing to do with me, right? Most of us as kiddos are like, oh, what did I do? Excuse me, what I did wrong, or I'm terrible, I'm not good enough. We start to internalize all that. And then as we get older, if we don't feel it to heal it, because we stuff it away, it just presents in patterns. Excuse me, patterns of personalization and jumping to conclusions and judgments and criticisms and angers and all the things. So for me, when I look at myself and I'm looking within and I ask that question, then I start to put these pieces together in the aspect of, so it starts off looking back in childhood, as we talked about earlier in the week. Situations occur where judgment and criticism is projected out onto us, right? Then we internalize all that stuff. Let me set this down for a minute. And then we internalize all that stuff. And then we're on guard and we personalize. And as another comment on the post was, our self-esteem is lowered. We don't feel as good about self because we've been judged and criticized. And then we kind of start to believe all that stuff that we've heard, right? Even though it's, of course, it's not true, but we internalize it. We believe it to be true. Then we start to heal and we move on and we progress. And then we find that we just kind of shove some of these things aside and they still are sitting in our energy field. So then when something else comes up and it triggers something within us, and then maybe we become the criticizer or the one being judgmental, whether it's on ourselves or out towards others, either one. And we notice that. And then the human ego really hops in and starts with the blame, shame, and guilt game, right? You know better than that. Why would you do that? No, 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 no. Beat you down, beat you down, beat you down, beat you down, right? So I don't know about you guys, but before I was able to really manage my emotions, anger was my go-to. So most things I was feeling and I didn't know how to, who likes to feel some of those emotions, right? Normal or not, we don't like to feel them necessarily. So anger was my go-to. So if you kind of think of anger as being an umbrella term, a lot of different emotions could be underneath of anger, right? Sadness, disappointment, just hurt feelings. There's a slew of them, but those are the first ones that popped into mind. And for me, it was easier to feel angry than hurt, right? So instead of feeling sad, I'd be angry. Instead of having my feelings hurt, I'd be angry. Instead of feeling vulnerable, I would get angry, right? This anger gave me a false sense of strength, almost power. But then again, it just, that vicious cycle, it comes back around because then it's like, you know better, you healed, you done this, you done that, and blah, blah, blah. And the ego comes back and just starts beating you up again, right? So kind of that's what I was digging into. Do we make these connections? Can we see that within ourselves? And then can we see how in that cycle, we then can project it back out again? So we can be critical of ourselves and judge ourselves. And then we can also project it out onto others and start pointing fingers and judging others. Have you noticed that? Do you recognize that at all? Is that, though, because the purpose of this is not to identify it, to beat ourselves up more, right? It's to be aware of it and assess that energy. Is that in alignment with the source of unconditional love? Nope, absolutely not. Not the initial anger, not the initial resentment, not the criticism, not the blame, shame, or guilt. Like none of that is in alignment with the source of unconditional love. How does it serve you? It doesn't. It did the ego, right? It did by repeating those patterns. It was a way of survival. But it really doesn't serve us. It's a false sense of security. It's not a real sense of security. Allowing ourselves to let that go, to release it or allow it to fall away, to break those patterns, if you will, to create new patterns, to lean into the source of unconditional love, leaning what I often call pivot up, right? We pivot up into that higher vibrational energy, having that faith, having that trust, trusting in our intuition. We don't necessarily trust all humans around us, right? There's humans. Humans make mistakes. Humans have unhealed wounds. Humans get stuck in ego humanness, right? So it's not that we're trusting all humans, excuse me, but we're trusting the highest and we're trusting ourselves, which was tricky for me, to pay attention and listen to our intuition, right? And sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between a triggered human emotion versus your intuition. But we continue to practice, we continue to be aware, we continue to assess, and we continue to get in alignment with the source of unconditional love. And throughout that process, we're releasing that old stuff, we're letting go of those old patterns, and we're allowing ourselves to be in that more healed space where the anger is dissipating, where the resentment is releasing, right? All of that also can occur with the act of forgiveness, right? Forgiving self and forgiving others. And if you can't be the forgiver, as Matt Kahn says, allow forgiveness to occur. Just be open to it, because forgiveness is not saying, here's your free pass to continue doing what you were doing. Forgiveness is a way of saying, I'm done holding on to this baggage because it's not doing me or anybody else any good. Forgiveness is saying, I'm done repeating the same old thing over and over again. It's time to make a change, and I'm okay with that, right? I'm going to release the old baggage because it's just weighing me down, is no longer serving my highest good, and I'm allowing myself to pivot up, which is why we talk about forgiveness in the heart chakra, because forgiveness in itself is transformational. And in the heart chakra, that is the space for transformation. Again, the energy in the lower chakras comes up to the heart chakra. You've got the energy from the higher chakras coming down. So the energy of the source of unconditional love is coming down through your higher chakras. Your human experiences are hanging out below and coming up in the heart, waiting, just trying to show up. Like, is it my turn? So in those moments of like chaos, inner chaos, in those moments of you feel like you're just losing it and you want to, whatever, it's beating you down and you don't want to be around or whatever it may be. It's in those moments where stuff is coming up to say, can I be healed now? Because that's the part that wants to, quote unquote, die away, right? That's the part that wants to be released. So if we can hold space for that, feel it to heal it, allow forgiveness to occur, then we can have that transformational moment, have it released, right? And what a relief that is. Not to say more won't come up, not to be the bearer of bad news, so to speak. But we start to move through these things quicker, right? We don't have that battle like years ago when I had no understanding at all, or very limited, not in the same, process that I go through now, like the energy of the chakras. When these things came up, it just seemed like, oh man, it's about to take me out, you know? I didn't realize it was an opportunity to release it, an opportunity to heal and let it go, an opportunity to not have to carry that with me over and over and over again, right? But it's not going to go away until it comes up to be seen. So we can try to fight it and hide it and avoid it all we want to, but until it presents, and it presents loud and clear, right? And we give ourselves opportunity to look at it in observer mode, which we talk about what is today? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we talk about, I can follow chakras, I can't follow days. Observer mode with the third eye chakra. You're observing from a different space. When the human ego is trying to observe itself, that's where the inner chaos occurs. Which is why I shared before, like years ago, that's why I felt that stuckness, right? CBT, cognitive behavior theory, I think is still amazing. It takes work, but my brain likes to do work, so it works well for me. But it was missing that piece because it was my human ego-ness trying to observe and fix itself. And that doesn't work out really well. At least that didn't for me. I needed that higher part, God, source, spirit, the source of unconditional love. I needed that higher part to come in, to be the observer, to allow the forgiveness to occur, to meet myself with love and compassion. Otherwise, it's just human ego fighting human ego, and the cycle continues, right? So that was a lot. Let me know what you think. Drop them in the comments. Let me know how you're doing. A couple things before we wrap up. So I think that was a good place to stop. That was a lot to process. So if you feel called to do Reiki and you're not already attuned and trained in Reiki, I have a link in the description for you if you're interested in checking that out. I'd love to have you. What else? Sign up for the Empathic Healers Masterclass, a step-by-step guide to set boundaries and protect your energy. Very important stuff. We will go live with that November 20th. The link is also available in description. The homework, as always, keep checking in with you. Meet yourself with love and compassion, right? Hang in there. Be aware of where you're at without getting sucked down into all the gunk, right? Don't want to get stuck in the quicksand, if you will. We're just taking a look at it, meeting ourselves with love and compassion, no blame, shame, and guilt. When we have that awareness, we could then make a choice to do something different, right? We don't have to keep repeating the same old stuff. Journal on it and meet me back here tomorrow for throat chakra energy and talking about communication and your truth, which is your highest truth, right? Not the ego fighting itself, not the old patterns, but your soul, your spirit. That's completely an aspect of the source of unconditional love. So take good care of you, and I will see you tomorrow. So much love. Bye, guys.